Each morning, as the world stirs into movement, remind yourself of who you truly are. You are not a leaf tossed by the winds of circumstance, but the creator of your experience. Begin by affirming the truth. I am the operant power. Nothing comes into my world unless it is called by me. What I assume to be true, so it becomes. Tell yourself that your imagination is not idle fantasy, but the very spark of creation. What you imagine, you become. Feel it real. Assume the state of the wish fulfilled, and walk in that inner knowing, for your inner world is more real than the facts you see. Say to yourself, I already have all that I desire. Speak it not with hope, but with certainty. Let your inner speech match the life you desire, for your thoughts and feelings are seeds, and your world is simply the harvest of what you've planted within. Declare each day that nothing is withheld from you. There is no delay in the mind of the infinite. The moment you accept your desire as fulfilled, the path unfolds, quietly, invisibly, yet inevitably. Tell yourself that your past has no power unless you bring it forward. Let the old man die. Each day is a clean slate, and you are free to revise, to recreate, to embody the version of yourself that aligns with your vision. Remind yourself that persistence is the secret. Not effort, not striving, but inner constancy. Return again and again to the state of your fulfilled desire. Saturate yourself in the feeling. Live from it, breathe it, until the outer reflects the inner. Say with quiet authority, I am worthy, not because of deeds or validation, but because I exist. All that is within me. I do not need to chase. What is mine is drawn to me by the law of assumption. Tell yourself that every challenge is a shadow of a former thought. Nothing is against you. Life is not happening to you, but through you. Shift within, and the outer must conform. That is the law. And finally, affirm daily that you are always becoming. You are not limited by what was. You are not stuck. You are fluid, eternal consciousness, ever reshaping, ever renewing. Let your assumption of self today be grander than yesterday. Let your vision be bold. For the only limit is the one you accept. You are the operant power. This simple statement, though it may seem small on the surface, contains the entire secret of life. It is not a mere affirmation to be repeated without thought. It is a revelation of your true nature. Everything you experience, all that you see, and every condition that appears in your world is a reflection of your internal state of consciousness. You are not a victim of external forces. You are not at the mercy of fate, luck, or the opinions of others. There is no power outside of you operating upon your life without your consent. All is within. All that you behold, though it appears without, is truly within you, in your own consciousness, and you are its creator. When you begin to understand this, not as a theory, but as a living truth, your relationship with life shifts entirely. You no longer wait for circumstances to change, for people to behave differently, or for the world to grant you permission to feel fulfilled. Instead, you look inward and begin the work of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, of moving your awareness into the state where your desire is already accomplished. It is not about doing more or struggling harder. It is about accepting the truth of your being and consciously choosing the assumptions that will shape your reality. The world reflects your beliefs, your dominant thoughts, your persistent feelings. This is not a metaphor, it is the law. When you believe that something is hard to achieve, your world will reflect that belief. When you accept an idea as true, regardless of what your senses may say, it must come to pass, because you are the one with the power to decree a thing and see it established. Your inner conversations, the thoughts you entertain when no one is watching, the mental pictures you dwell upon, these are not idle, they are formative, they are creative. They are the builders of your experience. To understand that you are the operant power is to take full responsibility for your life, not in a way that induces guilt, but in a way that awakens your divine authority. You stop blaming, you stop waiting, you stop looking outside for change, and instead you begin to assume control of the inner world, knowing that the outer will follow. If you want more love, you must feel yourself to be loved. If you desire abundance, you must assume the consciousness of wealth. If you long for healing, you must see yourself as whole. It all begins within you, for consciousness is the only reality. Many believe they are powerless because they do not see immediate change. They assume that what is real must be visible now. But this is a misunderstanding. The visible world is always a delayed reflection. What you experience today is the result of past assumptions. Just as the seed does not bloom in the same moment it is planted, your inner work takes time to materialize. But it must bear fruit according to its nature. If you persist in an idea, the world must conform to it. The question is not whether the law works. It is always working. The question is, what are you assuming? What are you accepting as true about yourself and the world? You may not speak it aloud, but your inner convictions are loud and clear to the universe. They form the mold through which all things are poured. If you habitually think you are not good enough, if you consistently expect disappointment, then those are the states you occupy, and those are the realities that must mirror back to you. But if you change your assumption, if you begin to feel deep within that you are already the person you desire to be, the world must bend to reflect that new self-concept. It does not matter how impossible a thing seems to the rational mind. Imagination does not operate by the logic of the senses. Imagination is the divine faculty that sees beyond appearances and calls things that are not as though they were. And you are always imagining something. You cannot stop imagining, but you can choose what to imagine. And when you align that imagination with your desire, when you inhabit the feeling that your desire is already yours, you shift into the state that must outpicture itself. You must remember this truth in every moment. You are not subject to the world. The world is subject to your inner state. Do not look to appearances to decide what is possible. Do not give power to what you see unless it aligns with your inner vision. The moment you accept a new idea as true, you move into the world where that idea is real. And if you persist in that acceptance, if you dwell in it faithfully, the facts must change to reflect it. This is not about pretending. It is not about lying to yourself. It is about aligning with a deeper truth than what the senses reveal. The senses are limited. They can only report what is. But imagination reveals what can be, what is already real in the unseen. And the unseen becomes seen through faith, through belief, through the assumption that it already is. This is the key. You must assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and live from that state. Not visit it, not test it, not hope for it, but live from it, knowing that as you do, you are writing the script for your life. This requires discipline, not of the outer kind, but inner discipline. The discipline to turn away from what you do not want and fix your attention on what you do. The discipline to revise past events in your mind and replace them with outcomes that empower you. The discipline to catch yourself in limiting thoughts and replace them with the truth. I am the operant power. My world reflects my inner state. There is no other cause. As you persist in this truth, the world will change. It has no choice. It is law. The law is impersonal. It does not judge or discriminate. It simply reflects. And when you learn to use it consciously, your life becomes a work of art, a deliberate expression of your inner vision. You are not here to react to life, but to create it. You are not here to be shaped by others, but to mold reality through the power of assumption. Every day, remind yourself, I am the operant power. My assumptions harden into fact. My inner world is the source of all that I see. I am not waiting, I am creating. Imagination creates reality. This is not a poetic idea or a comforting phrase. It is the eternal law by which all things come into being. You do not need to earn, struggle, or beg for the life you desire. You only need to imagine it and do so in the right way. Imagination, when used consciously and deliberately, is the creative act itself. Everything that now exists was once imagined. The clothes you wear, the home you live in, the chair you sit upon, none of these things existed until someone first imagined them. And just as those outer creations came into form through the imagination of others, your inner world creates your personal reality in the same exact manner. Your imagination is not a mere faculty of fantasy. It is divine. It is the sacred power through which the unseen becomes seen. You are imagining all the time. Even now, your beliefs, your thoughts, your self-concept are all constructs of imagination. If you believe you are limited, it is because you have accepted and imagined yourself as such. If you feel unloved, it is because you are imagining yourself to be outside the state of love. What you believe to be true of yourself and the world is nothing more than imagination impressed upon consciousness. And what is impressed upon consciousness must express itself in form. So, when you hear the words imagination creates reality, do not think of this as a call to daydream or indulge in empty thoughts. This is an invitation to awaken to the truth of your own creative power. Every image you hold persistently in your mind, every feeling you nurture and sustain, every inner conversation you repeat, these are acts of creation. They are planting seeds in the invisible that will in time bear fruit in the visible. Imagination must be used deliberately, and it must be fused with feeling. It is not enough to merely think of something, you must feel from it. The distinction is subtle but vital. When you think of your desire, you see it as separate, as something out there. But when you feel from your desire, you are identifying with it, embodying it, living in it. You are no longer desiring, you are experiencing. And what you experience inwardly must, by law, take shape outwardly. Suppose you desire to be successful. You do not sit and think, one day I will be successful. That is merely a hope deferred. Instead, you enter into the state where success is already yours. You close your eyes, quiet the outer senses, and imagine what it feels like to have achieved what you desire. You hear the congratulations, feel the pride, see yourself living the life you once longed for. You make it so vivid that it becomes real to you. And if you do this faithfully, with persistence and feeling, your outer world will be compelled to rearrange itself to match this inner assumption. It is not necessary for you to figure out the how. That is not your role. Your only responsibility is to imagine clearly, to feel deeply, and to persist in that state without wavering. The means will appear. People, events, and circumstances will move in accordance with your inner vision. The law of assumption operates in perfect order. What you assume to be true, what you imagine with conviction, must manifest. Many dismiss imagination as something untrustworthy, something reserved for children or artists. But imagination is the origin of all creation. It is the womb of reality. What you imagine is what you are creating, and the world you experience is nothing but the mirror of your inner imaginal activity. There is no outer reality that exists independently of your inner state. The world is a shadow, and the substance is your consciousness, your imagination. When you begin to live from this understanding, everything changes. You stop reacting to circumstances and start creating them. You stop fighting against what is and start imagining what can be. You become a conscious creator, not by effort or willpower, but by assumption and inner alignment. You realize that to change your life, you do not need to manipulate people or conditions. You only need to change the images you hold within. If you imagine lack, lack must appear. If you imagine abundance, abundance must find its way to you. The law does not fail. The only reason people do not see the results they want is because they do not persist in the imaginal act. They waver, they doubt, they look to the outer world for confirmation. But the outer world is delayed. It reflects the past. To bring about a new result, you must stay loyal to the unseen. You must continue to imagine, feel, and believe, even when nothing seems to be changing. That is faith, not blind belief, but the inner certainty that your imaginal act is already a reality. Think of your imagination as a stage. Whatever scene you play upon it with feeling and repetition becomes the script of your life. You may have rehearsed scenes of fear, doubt, and limitation for years without realizing it, but you can change the scene at any moment. You can direct a new play, cast yourself in a new role, and live in the end of a new desire. The past does not bind you. The facts do not limit you. Only your imagination defines you, and it can be changed. Imagination is not passive, it is not idle, it is dynamic and alive. When you engage it purposefully, it begins to work wonders. It reorganizes your life, draws people and opportunities to you, and dissolves obstacles without effort. It is not magic, it is law, and you are using it whether you know it or not. Every complaint is an act of imagination. Every worry is a prayer for what you do not want. Every doubt is a creative act that brings forth more of the same. So you must become aware. You must choose deliberately what you imagine. Choose love, choose abundance, choose joy. Imagine the best and feel it as if it were already here. Enter the scene and live it fully. Your senses may tell you it is not so, but your imagination knows better. It is always ahead of the senses. It is the cause. The senses are the effect. The great secret is this: you become what you imagine. Not what you wish for, not what you hope for, but what you inwardly accept as true. So ask yourself daily, what am I imagining? Let that question guide you, let it awaken you, and when you find yourself imagining something you do not wish to experience, change it, revise it, replace it with a new scene. Do not allow your imagination to run wild with fear and limitation. Tame it, master it, use it as the sacred tool it is. And as you do, the world will reflect the change, not by force, not by manipulation, but by natural, effortless alignment. You will walk into scenes that match your inner vision. You will meet people who seem like they were sent just for you. You will find yourself in places and circumstances that once seemed impossible, and yet they will feel utterly natural because you have already lived them in imagination. The present moment is a clean slate. It does not carry the weight of the past unless you choose to bring the past forward. Each moment is an opportunity to start again, to revise, to reimagine, to step into a new version of yourself. The idea that you are bound to your past experiences, past decisions, or past identity is a falsehood. It is a habit of thought, a repeated assumption that keeps you circling the same life patterns over and over. But the truth is, you are free to change your inner state now, and in doing so, change the entire course of your life. You may believe that what happened yesterday has power over you today, but it only holds power because you continue to recall it, identify with it, and emotionally respond to it. The law is simple. What you persist in assuming becomes your reality. So if you persist in assuming that the past still defines you, that its pain, its limitations, or its failures are still active, then yes, they will appear again and again in your world. But the moment you withdraw your attention from that storyline, the moment you choose a new identity, a new assumption, a new feeling, you step onto a different timeline altogether. Consciousness is not fixed. It is fluid, dynamic, alive. You are not a solid thing. You are a field of awareness that is constantly being shaped by what you consent to be true. At any moment, you can say, I no longer accept that version of myself, and begin to imagine something entirely different. And in that moment of inner decision, of emotional acceptance, you move, and not physically, perhaps not immediately in the outer world, but you move inwardly, and that inner movement is what creates outer change. There is nothing in your past that cannot be revised, nothing. No experience is set in stone. What you remember is only your interpretation of an event, shaped by the state you were in at the time. But you are not bound to that interpretation. You can go back in your mind and rewrite it. You can take a memory that once caused you pain and reshape it into something healing, empowering, and freeing. This is not denying the past, it is transcending it. It is claiming your right to be the author of your own story, rather than its victim. To revise is not to pretend. It is to understand that imagination is the only reality. What you imagine with feeling becomes your truth. So if you once felt rejected, you can return to that scene in imagination and hear different words, see different reactions, feel a different atmosphere. You can transform it. And when you do this sincerely and persistently, the emotional charge tied to that memory dissolves, and your current state of being rises. People in your life may even begin to act differently, as if they too have forgotten the old story. Because in truth, they are only playing the roles you have assigned to them through your inner assumptions. The past is over the moment you stop feeding it, the moment you stop telling the same story, the moment you stop using your present to relive what has already gone. There is only now, and what you imagine now, what you feel now, what you believe now, this is what creates the next moment and the next. Life is not a straight line of cause and effect. It is a reflection of your present state. And that state is always available to be chosen, molded, and lifted. You are not required to carry guilt, shame, regret, or sorrow any longer than you choose to. These are not fixed aspects of your personality. They are states of consciousness. And states can be changed. You can, in this very moment, assume the state of being forgiven, of being whole, of being radiant and loved. You can imagine yourself as you wish to be, and if you do so with enough sincerity and feeling, that new state will begin to overwrite the old one. Many believe change is slow, but change is not a matter of time, it is a matter of attention. What you give your awareness to expands. If you dwell on the same complaints, the same limitations, the same disappointments, they grow. But if you take your attention away from what you do not want and instead fix your focus on the version of yourself you desire to be, that version begins to crystallize and express itself through you. In the silence of your inner world, you can become anything. You can sit quietly, close your eyes, and imagine yourself as confident, joyful, successful, loved, abundant. You can feel the aliveness of that new identity, and if you remain faithful to it, your life will shift to match it. The outer world must conform to your inner state, because consciousness is the cause, and the world is its reflection. Every moment you are stepping into a version of yourself. There is no such thing as standing still. You are always becoming more of what you think, what you feel, what you imagine. So if you want to become something different, you must imagine something different. You must choose deliberately and often to occupy the state of your desired self. You must become familiar with it, live in it, think from it, speak from it, feel from it, and let the past fall away like an old skin you have outgrown. You do not need to fix the past. You do not need to revisit every hurt or figure out why something happened. You only need to stop dragging the past into the now. Stop defining yourself by yesterday. Start imagining who you are today, not who you were, who you are now, right now in this sacred moment of creation. You may have been told that change requires effort, that growth takes time, that healing must be a long process, but that is only true if you believe it is, if you imagine it that way. You can just as easily believe that transformation is instant, that freedom is now, that joy is always just one assumption away. And if you persist in that assumption, life will mirror it. Because the present moment is always listening. It is always echoing back what you assume to be true right now. You don't have to wait for permission, or for the perfect timing, or for outer circumstances to become ideal. That will never come until the inner state is first changed. The world is not the starting point. The world is the echo. The seed is within you. And every time you choose a new thought, a new feeling, a new assumption, you are planting that seed into the fertile soil of the present moment. And what you plant now determines what will grow next. So stop rehearsing the old roles. Stop repeating the same lines. The play is yours to rewrite. The character is yours to reimagine. The story is yours to revise. You do not need anyone's agreement. You only need to assume the truth of your new self and live from it. And as you do, the past dissolves, the weight lifts, and the life you once thought was distant begins to unfold, right where you are. You are the only operant power. Nothing has power over you unless you first give it permission within yourself. This is not a belief to be taken lightly. It is the foundation of all true transformation. You are not a victim of fate, nor are you at the mercy of external circumstances. You are not subject to the opinions of others, the laws of probability, or even your past decisions. You are subject only to the assumptions you inwardly accept as true. The world and everything in it reflects your own consciousness. Whatever you experience on the outside has first been accepted, allowed, or imagined within you. There is no other cause. To say that you are the only operant power is to recognize that your inner world is sovereign. No one else can create in your reality. Others may appear to influence or affect you, but their power is entirely dependent on your reaction. The moment you decide to believe a thing, to feel it deeply, to accept it as fact, it becomes true for you. Not because the world decreed it, but because you did. There is no outer authority greater than the authority of your own imagination. Most people move through life believing that things happen to them. They live reactively, letting the outer world dictate how they feel and what they believe. But the awakened one sees differently. The awakened one understands that what happens out there is simply an echo of what has been assumed and felt in here. The outer world is a shadow. You do not chase shadows to change your reality. You change the source, the light within, the assumption, the inner movement of thought and feeling. That is where all true power lies. When you accept that you are the only operant power, you stop waiting, you stop hoping, you stop pleading with life to give you something better. Instead, you turn inward and claim the new state from within. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and trust that your world will conform not because of luck or effort, but because it must. This is not arrogance. It is alignment with the truth of your being. It is stepping into the divine authority you have always had but may have forgotten. Every belief you hold is shaping your reality. If you believe you are powerless, life will confirm that belief. If you believe you must struggle, you will find endless struggles. If you believe that others control your destiny, then your world will be filled with controlling forces. But the moment you revise that belief, the moment you claim, I am the only operant power, your entire perspective shifts. You begin to realize that the outer is not causative, it is responsive. It is your mirror, and it can only reflect what you first imagine and feel to be true. This power does not depend on your background, education, status, or circumstances. It does not require effort, competition, or external validation. It is yours simply because you are aware. Awareness is the creative power, the state you dwell in, whether lack or abundance, fear or faith, limitation or freedom, is entirely up to you. You may not always be aware of the assumptions you're holding, but you can become aware. You can begin to observe your inner conversations, your habitual reactions, your feelings, and use them as clues to uncover what you've accepted as true. And once you find an assumption that no longer serves you, you can change it. Others may play roles in your life, but they are playing according to the script you have written within. If someone disrespects you, do not ask why they are so cruel. Ask what you believe about yourself that permits that experience. If opportunities seem scarce, do not ask why life is unfair. Ask what assumptions you are holding about success, worthiness, or effort. It always begins with you, and when you shift your inner state, the people, situations, and conditions must shift accordingly. It may seem at first that this puts great responsibility on your shoulders, but in truth it liberates you, because if no one else has power in your world, then nothing can truly hold you back. You are not waiting for someone to apologize, for life to become easier, for the economy to improve. You are free now, in this moment, to choose a new story, to embody a new version of yourself, to claim your desired reality, not someday, but now. You can persist in an assumption that feels impossible to the senses. You can affirm in the silence of your own heart that what you desire is already yours. And if you do this faithfully, regardless of what the outer world seems to say, you will see that world bend and rearrange itself to fit your inner conviction. Life is not happening to you, it is happening through you, and more accurately, as you. The doubts you encounter, the delays, the setbacks, they are not tests from some external force. They are the residue of old assumptions still playing out, and when you continue to persist in the new state, even in the face of contradictory evidence, you weaken the grip of the old and strengthen the reality of the new. You do not need to resist the old, just stop feeding it. Withdraw your attention from what you no longer want, and give your full focus to what you are creating now. When you accept that you are the operant power, you understand that even your reactions are a choice. You no longer react blindly, you pause, you observe, and you respond from the state you wish to occupy. You begin to live consciously, deliberately, with awareness. You remember that no person or event has the power to define you unless you grant it that authority. And when you stop giving your power away, you reclaim your place as the creator. You are not required to convince anyone else of this truth. It is not necessary to explain or justify your inner work. Your world will speak for you. As your inner state transforms, those around you will notice. They may not understand how or why things are changing, but they will respond differently to you, not because they decided to, but because you did, because your new assumption demands a new reflection. Nothing is outside your reach because everything begins within. You are not limited by logic, by precedent, or by probability. You are limited only by what you believe is possible for you. So ask yourself often, what am I accepting as true? What story am I living from? What state am I assuming? And remind yourself gently yet firmly, I am the only operant power. Everything I see begins in me. Everything I experience is shaped by what I assume, and therefore I can choose again. I can shift. I can create anew. Everything is responding to your inner world, what you feel to be true, what you assume without effort, what you accept as normal within. This is what shapes your reality. You may look at the outside and believe that it has a power of its own, that it operates on rules and structures independent of you. But this is an illusion. The world does not move until you do. It does not reflect anything but the state you are in. The outer is only a mirror, and the mirror never lies. It only shows you what you are what you are being, what you are embodying in consciousness. You are never merely observing life, you are projecting it. You are casting onto the screen of space the images held within your imagination. These images are not casual daydreams. They are emotionalized states, saturated beliefs, assumptions so deeply accepted that you forget they began within. If you believe that people are unkind, the world will give you unkindness. If you feel you are not enough, your world will echo that lack back to you in 1,000 different forms. But if you dare to feel worthy, safe, loved, and abundant, before there is any external evidence of it, then your reality begins to soften, to mold, to rearrange itself in accordance with the vibration of your inner world. Everything that happens to you is a response to what you are. And what you are is not determined by effort, appearance, or even action. It is determined by consciousness. You may try to change your life by rearranging outer things, but if the state you are being remains the same, nothing truly shifts. You will find yourself repeating cycles, walking in circles, touching temporary changes that dissolve just as quickly. But the moment you assume a new inner state and feel it so deeply that it becomes your dwelling place, your outer world has no choice. It must yield. This is not philosophy, this is law. This is how creation works. You have never experienced anything in your world that you did not first give attention to within, whether consciously or unconsciously. The people who surround you, the conditions you encounter, the roles you are playing, they are all part of the great drama you have authored from your inner speech and emotion. Nothing comes to you uninvited. It may not have come in the way you expected or desired, but if it's in your world, it has roots in your consciousness. When you shift your awareness, your world must follow. But here is the key. Do not try to force the outer to change. Simply live inwardly from the new state. Feel from the end. Dwell in the assumption of your wish fulfilled. Speak to yourself in tones of love, peace, confidence, and certainty. Let your inner conversations mirror the world you desire. It may not appear instantly, but it is already forming, already taking shape, because everything is responding to your inner world. Even so-called delays or obstacles are not separate from your consciousness. They appear when you entertain doubt, when you contradict your desire with fear, when you look to the outer for proof and forget that the inner is the only source. You must not serve two masters. You cannot claim abundance while feeling lack, cannot affirm love while fearing rejection, cannot declare peace while rehearsing conflict in your mind. The inner world must be made pure, unified, single-minded. Only then does the reflection become clear. Many seek to control the outer. They chase, they struggle, they strive. But the more they push, the more resistance they encounter. That is because the outer is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be received. And you receive it by becoming internally what you wish to experience externally. The outer is not your enemy, not your master. It is your servant. And it obeys the quiet command of your dominant feeling, the atmosphere you carry within you when no one is watching. You don't need to manipulate others or wait for their approval. You don't need to beg life for change. All you need is to inhabit the state. And that state will pull the world into alignment with itself. Your only task is to persist in the inner knowing, even when the outer seems unchanged. Especially then, that is the moment of testing, not from life, but from your own habitual reactions. Will you return to the old state of doubt? Or will you remain faithful to your assumption, knowing that everything is responding? If you choose faith, if you choose to feel the reality of your desire now, if you choose to respond from the new state instead of reacting from the old, then you will watch in wonder as life rearranges itself. Circumstances shift, people change, opportunities arise that you never planned. And all of it will feel natural, inevitable, seamless. Not because you forced anything, but because you align your inner world with the outcome you desire. There is no limit to what you can receive because there's no limit to what you can be in consciousness. You can be healthy, wealthy, loved, successful, not someday, but now. Not by hoping, but by knowing. Not by doing, but by being. And when you are it within, when you assume it quietly, faithfully, persistently, life has no choice. The reflection must match the image. The fruit must match the seed. The outer must respond to the inner. So when you look out at your world and see something you do not like, do not fight it. Do not complain, resist, or dwell on it. Instead, go within and ask, what am I believing right now? What am I feeling to be true? And then change it. Revise it, replace it, choose a new assumption and inhabit it. Feel it in your body, hear the conversations that confirm it, see the scenes that prove it. Not in the future, but not out there, but in here. Everything is responding, not to your words, not to your wishes, but to your state. Be the state, and the world will follow.